Thank you so much for joining on Wednesday for ISKCON of Silicon Valley Bhagavad Gita class. My name is Kautukarnava, and I am going to present Appetite for Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I will share my screen. So this is the overview for the presentation today. We will start with Mangalacharan and then the motivation for this topic and covering Arjuna's lamentation, and then we'll conclude and go to the reflections. So we'll start with Jai Radha Madhav prayers. Let me stop sharing.
Should I share Jai Radha
Yes,
Madhav?
Prabhu, please.
Okay. Just
Thank
give
you.
me 2 minutes. I will do some logistics. I will put in the YouTube and Facebook something, and then we can start. Is that fine, Prabhu?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare.
Yes, Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Ashrimad Prabhu. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana, Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari, Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari, Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana, Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Yamuna Tira Vanachari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram 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 Hare Hare, Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare, जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य श्रोत्र शशि श्रीमती डिवाइन ग्रेस एसी भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी महाराज श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, इस्कॉन फाउंडर आचार्य श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्रील हरिदास ठाकुर की जय, षड गोस्वामी प्रभु की जय, All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories and glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Prabhu. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padkamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much, dear devotees, for joining on Zoom, on YouTube, Facebook. Thank you so much for your association. I seek your permission and blessings to start the class and glorify Krishna and Srimad Bhagavad Gita in the mode of Guru Parampara. Thank you so much for your association. Hare Krishna. Let me share my screen. So today we are going to discuss how can we develop appetite for listening to Bhagavad Gita. I have chosen this topic because I myself need appetite for Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So let's discuss more about the topic. We have already completed the Mangala Charan and we'll go to the motivation for this topic. In one of the classes, His Grace Achyuta Chaitanya Prabhu mentioned that Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the 18 chapters of Bhagavad Gita are like a feast for sincere devotee. So if a sincere devotee is practicing nicely, he will have a lot of appetite and he can understand the purpose of each and every verse that Krishna is speaking in Bhagavad Gita. On the other hand, if I do not have an appetite, even if there is a big feast, so here we have a picture of Sunday feast in ISKCON. So even if there are a lot of items, if I don't have an appetite, I cannot relish them. So that is the motivation for this topic. I wanted, for my own purification, I want to understand how we can develop the appetite for hearing the message of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada has mentioned in the introduction of Bhagavad Gita that the mood to receive Bhagavad Gita is also given in the Bhagavad Gita. This is the mood of Arjun. So if we can understand and follow the footsteps of Arjuna, Sri Arjun, then we can also develop appetite for listening to the message of Bhagavad Gita. In a recent class by His Grace Kanai Thakur Prabhu, he mentioned if a person like me, I'm referring to myself, was there listening to Bhagavad Gita from Krishna, then the Bhagavad Gita would have been finished in 3 verses only, which is you are not this body, you are spirit soul. You should tolerate conveniences and inconvenience because of heat and cold. And such a person can attain liberation. And yes, I would have accepted and maybe tried to fight. But because there was Arjuna on the other side, Krishna chose him because he could ask very, very relevant questions from a perspective of a sincere practitioner. That is why we have 700 verses in Bhagavad Gita. Of course, we won't be able to cover the entire layout of Bhagavad Gita in this session. I'm going to only focus on the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, because in the first chapter, we see that Arjuna is going through a crisis. Arjuna is lamenting, seeing Bhishma and Drona on the other side of the battlefield. He's very emotional. He's not able to stand even. His body is trembling. His mouth is drying up. His bow Gandiva has fallen from his hand. His quivers are coming out. His arrows are coming out from his quiver. And he's almost crying. So if we can understand and appreciate the mood of Arjun in the first chapter, then we can also develop an appetite for hearing the instructions that Krishna gave from second chapter onwards. So that is the basis for this talk presentation. That is the motivation. Broadly speaking, there are 5 different reasons why Arjuna was feeling that lamentation. I have referred to Gita Subodhini and Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is in order to understand them. So we are going to go through them one by one. 4 of them are in chapter 1. 5th one is in chapter 2. We will just slightly refer to the 5th one. So let's begin with reading the purports from Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is. I have prepared a document copying out the verses and the purports, certain purports which I wanted to read, and I can share them. So if any devotee likes, they can read, and then we can discuss. I hope this is good with everybody. I would be happy if I can have some interaction. So you can raise your hand or, jump in to read. Let me share the document. Thank you, Ashramada Prabhu. I see your hands up. I'm feeling much 100% better. Okay, let me share the document. So here we go. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. Are you able to see the document?
Prabhu, just make it maybe increase the font or maybe make it big or zoom it, something like that.
Okay, let me see. Is this okay?
I think the zoom was okay, but suddenly it went back again to small font. Just now the zoom what you had, that was nice.
Okay, let me. Is this okay?
Yeah, this is I think okay. Yeah.
if you want to increase the font, I can try to increase the font size. Second. Is this okay, Prabhu?
Yes, this is fine. This is fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's begin. We will start with the text 21, 22. Anybody would like to volunteer to read from the document?
I can read.
I can read. Prabhu.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Someone wanted to read.
Was it Krishna Prabhu or who was it?
Yeah, Prabhu.
Yes,
Yes,
Prabhu.
Krishna
Please
Prabhu,
go ahead.
Arjuna said, "O infallible one, please draw my chariot between the two armies, so that I may see those present here who desire to fight, and with whom I must contend in this great trial of arms." Purport. As a pure devotee of the Lord, Arjuna had no desire to fight with his cousins and brothers, but he was forced to come onto the battlefield by the obstinacy of Duryodhana, who was never agreeable to any peaceful negotiation. Therefore, he was very anxious to see who the leading person present on the battlefield were. Although there was no question of a peacemaking endeavor on the battlefield, he wanted to see them again and to see how much they were bent upon demanding an unwanted war.
Read one more, Prabhu, please.
Let me see those who have come here to fight, wishing to please the evil minded son of Dhritarashtra. Arjuna wanted to see them on the battlefield before the fight was begun, just to learn who they were. But he had no intention of proposing peace negotiation with them. It was also a fact that he wanted to see them to make an estimate of the strength which he had to face, although he was quite confident of victory because Krishna was sitting by his side.
Thank you, Krishna Prabhu. So here we can see this is the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 1, text 21 onwards. And after everybody has blown their conch shells, now Arjuna is asking Krishna, please draw the chariot in the middle of the two armies so that he may see everyone present there. And he wants to make an estimate of the strength of the opposite army. So we can see here right now, Arjuna has no mood of negotiation. He's there just to prepare for the fight. He is ready to fight. He's ready to kill. And let's see how just like a drama, how the things going to change, because Krishna himself, he is going to put his pure devotee in illusion so that he can speak Bhagavad Gita. Prabhupada gives an example in introduction of Bhagavad Gita that if there is a newly wedded girl who has come to the house, so the mother-in-law, she never directly chastises her. She actually would chastise her own daughter, and indirectly she would teach her daughter-in-law. So similarly, Krishna is teaching Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, who is a pure devotee, who cannot be illusioned. But he's put into illusion so that we can learn. Okay, let's continue. We need one more volunteer.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji, go ahead.
Sanjay said, O descendant of Bharat, having thus been addressed by Arjuna, Lord Krishna drew up the fine chariot in the midst of the armies of both parties. In this verse, Arjuna is referred to as Gudakesha. Gudaka means sleep, and one who conquers sleep is called Gudakesha. Sleep also means ignorance, so Arjuna conquered both sleep and ignorance because of his friendship with Krishna. As a great devotee of Krishna, he could not forget Krishna even for a moment, because that is the nature of a devotee. Either in waking or in sleep, a devotee of the Lord can never be free from thinking of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Thus, a devotee of Krishna can conquer both sleep and ignorance simply by thinking of Krishna constantly. This is called Krishna consciousness or samadhi. As Rishikesha, or the director of the senses and mind of every living entity, Krishna could understand Arjuna's purpose in placing the chariot in the midst of the armies. Thus he did so and spoke as follows.
Thank you, Prabhu. So here we are saying that Arjuna is being referred to as Kudakesha. He has conquered sleep as well as ignorance. And he has not performed any yoga exercises in order to conquer sleep or ignorance. He has developed, as Prabhupada is saying, a devotee of the Lord can never be free from thinking of Krishna's name, form, qualities, and pastimes. Thus, a devotee of Krishna can conquer both sleep and ignorance simply by thinking of Krishna constantly. So the process, this is called Krishna consciousness or samadhi. So Krishna consciousness is not about performing austerities, but they are automatically performed because of developing love for Krishna. Just like a mother, she cares for the child. She doesn't sleep in the night because the baby is not sleeping, or so many things she has to take care. So it is not an austerity for her because it is done out of love. So similarly, for a pure devotee, to conquer sleep or ignorance is not a big achievement. They automatically achieve it because of their pure love for Krishna. We have seen examples of the 6 Goswamis, Srila Madhvendra Puri, Srila Prabhupada, who would sleep for so little time, maybe practically 1 hour or 2 hours, but whole time they were reaching Krishna consciousness. That is because of their love, because of thinking of Krishna constantly. They were in samadhi. So let's continue. Ashram Madhaprabhu, would you like to read these 2 verses also, up to 26?
Yep. In the presence of Bhishma, Drona, and all the other chieftains of the world, the Lord said, just behold, Partha, all the Kurus assembled here. As the super soul of all living entities, Lord Krishna could understand what was going on in the mind of Arjuna. The use of the word Hrishikesha in this connection indicates that he knew everything, and the word Partha, meaning the son of Pritha or Kunti, is also similarly significant in reference to Arjuna. As a friend, he wanted to inform Arjuna that because Arjuna was the son of Pritha, the sister of his own father Vasudeva, he had agreed to be the charioteer of Arjuna. Now, what did Krishna mean when he told Arjuna to behold the Kurus? Did Arjuna want to stop there and not fight? Krishna never expected such things from the son of his aunt Pritha. The mind of Arjuna was thus predicted by the Lord in friendly joking. Verse 26. There Arjuna could see within the midst of the armies of both parties his fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, brothers, sons, grandsons, friends, and also his fathers-in-law and well-wishers. On the battlefield, Arjuna could see all kinds of relatives. He could see persons like Bhurishrava, who were his father's contemporaries, grandfathers Bhisma and Somadatta, teachers like Dronacharya and Kripacharya, maternal uncles like Salya and Sakuni, brothers like Duryodhana, sons like Lakshmana, friends like Aswathama, well-wishers like Kritavarma, etc. He could see also the armies which contained many of his friends.
Thank you, Prabhu. So we can see here the word Rishikesh is used for Krishna because Krishna is the master of the senses. He knows the mind and senses of everybody. So he knows the mind of Arjuna. But he is calling him Partha, that son of his aunt Pritha, who is herself in a Kshatriya, from a Kshatriya family. So how could Arjuna be thinking? What is the purpose of thinking of stopping and not fighting? So that is Krishna's prediction. And yeah, now we can see Arjuna is seeing within the midst of both the armies, his relatives. His Grace Kanai Thakur Prabhu mentioned in his class, he's seeing through the charm chakshu, or the skin, the vision of the skin. There are 3 kinds of vision. One is the vision of the muscles, the eyes that we have, and we are seeing on the platform of body. The second kind of vision is the vision of jnana chakshu or shastra chakshu, where we are seeing on the platform of soul. And the third vision is based on the love of Godhead, prema chakshu. So here Arjuna is seeing his relatives, and let's see what happens next. Okay, would anybody like to read? Or I can also read if there's no volunteer. Oh, Momita Mataji, yes, go ahead.
Prabhu, text 28?
Text 27
Okay.
and then 28 also, yes.
Okay. When the son of Kunti, Arjuna, saw all these different grades of friends and relatives, he became overwhelmed with compassion and spoke thus. Arjuna said, "My dear Krishna, seeing my friends and relatives present before me in such a fighting spirit, I feel the limbs of my body quivering and my mouth drying up. Any man who has genuine devotion to the Lord has all the good qualities which are found in godly persons or in the demigods. Whereas the non devotee, however advanced he may be in material qualifications by education and culture, lacks in godly qualities. As such, Arjuna, just after seeing his kinsmen, friends, and relatives on the battlefield, was at once overwhelmed by compassion for them who had so decided to fight amongst themselves. As far as his soldiers were concerned, he was sympathetic from the beginning, but he felt compassion even for the soldiers of the opposite party for seeing their imminent death. And while he was so thinking, the limbs of his body began to quiver and his mouth became dry. He was more or less astonished to see their fighting spirit. Practically, the whole community, all blood relatives of Arjuna, had come to fight with him. Hare Krishna.
Maybe we can read up to text 30.
Okay, should I continue?
Yes, please. Please.
Such symptoms in Arjuna were not due to weakness, but to his soft heartedness, a characteristic of a pure devotee of the Lord. It is said, therefore, yasyasti bhaktir bhagavati akinchana sarvair gunesh tatra samasate surah harav abhaktasya kuto mahadguna manorathena sati dhavato bahi. One who has unflinching devotion for the personality of Godhead has all the good qualities of the demigods. But one who is not a devotee of the Lord has only material qualifications that are of little value. This is because he is hovering on the mental plane and is certain to be attracted by the glaring material energy.
Okay, let me make one point, Mataji. Thank you. Here we have seen that Arjuna, although he is overwhelmed with compassion, but he has a soft heart. This is because of his soft-heartedness, and this is a good quality that Prabhupada is mentioning, because a pure devotee develops all the saintly qualities or the qualities of the demigods. Okay, let's go ahead. Okay, let's read two more, text 29 and 30. I'm sorry.
Okay, Prabhu. Should I continue?
Yes.
Okay. My whole body is trembling, my hair is standing on end, my bow gandiv is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. Arjuna's symptoms in this situation are out of material fear, namely loss of life. This is evident from other symptoms also. He became so impatient that his famous bow gandiv was slipping from his hands, and because his heart was burning within him, he was feeling a burning sensation on the skin of the skin. All these are due to a material conception of life. I am unable to stand here any longer. I am forgetting myself and my mind is reeling. I see only causes of misfortune, O Krishna, killer of the Keshi demon. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. Bhayam dvitiya bhiniveshatah syat. Such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. Arjuna envisioned only painful reverses in the battlefield. He would not be happy even by gaining victory over the foe. The words nimittani viparitani are significant. When a man sees only frustration in his expectations, he thinks, why am I here? Everyone is interested in himself and his own welfare. No one is interested in the Supreme Self. Arjuna is showing ignorance of his real self interest by Krishna's will. One's real self interest lies in Vishnu or Krishna. The conditioned soul forgets this and therefore suffers material pains. Arjuna thought that his victory in the battle would only be a cause of lamentation for him. Next.
Thank you very much, Mataji. So this is the first expression of Arjuna out of compassion. And this is called compassion. This is the first reason why he has come into that state of lamentation. So where we are saying he has compassion for his friends, relatives, and even for the soldiers of the other side. In one of the purports, Prabhupada is mentioning this is due to soft-heartedness of Arjuna. But here we are seeing that this is because of the material fear, namely loss of life. And he is in a bewildering condition of existence. Excessive attachment for material things puts a man in such a bewildering condition of existence. Bhayam dvitiya abhiniveshatasya. So such fearfulness and loss of mental equilibrium take place in persons who are too affected by material conditions. So Arjuna is showing us the example of an ordinary conditioned soul. How would an ordinary conditioned being behave when he sees this? So how can I relate this? Because even in my life, I see losing a loved one, a friend or a relative who is on a deathbed. So I can relate myself with Arjuna here, because my vision is also at the level of charm chakshu. So I develop some kind of fear, actually, because of the loss of life. However, Krishna answers this in Bhagavad Gita 2.13 that dehinosmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantar praptir dhiras tatra namohyati. So Krishna says that as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So this is very relevant to our day-to-day life, because we go through this situation, losing a loved one, or even in my own self, the process of disease, the process of old age, and ultimately the process of death. It's inevitable. The modern science says that every 7 years, all the cells of our body change. We are not even the same person when we wake up, which we were the last day. So the only thing which is constant is spirit. In Bhagavad Gita 2.16, Krishna says that, let me read this, 2.16, those who are the seers of the truth have concluded that of the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and of the eternal, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. So this is Bhagavad Gita 2.16. When we understand this, we can set our expectations right. Of course, we can always have emotions, because we can feel the pain and suffering of the other being. We can relate with it. But we know that this is an expected condition, and this is going to happen with me also. There's a story that is mentioned which is saving the coat of a drowning man. If I try to save a person from death, it is like a person is drowning and I am going inside the river. I know swimming, and I just try to take the coat of the drowning man. Because this body cannot be saved. The real protection can be given to the soul, because soul is eternal. So we see, because of the bodily conception of life, we have developed so many artificial necessities. The taste for the tongue, the cosmetic industry, intoxication industry, gambling, all these are there because one thinks oneself as the body, and one wants to make the best, what is it called? YOLO, you live only once. So they try to enjoy, get the best out of the time they have right now. But Krishna says that soul is permanent and soul is going to get the next body. And one should be careful of one's actions because one has to reap the results in the next life. So the solution for this problem is to act on the platform of the soul. We want to eat good food. Yes, we should eat nice prasadam offered to Krishna, not ordinary food. I like to be intoxicated. Yes, we should be intoxicated by hearing and relishing Srimad Bhagavatam. I want to sing. I want to listen nice music. Yes, we should listen Hare Krishna Kirtans. So this is an alternative. I want to gamble. Yes, gamble your life for Krishna. See how it goes. So there are alternatives for this bodily conception. We can act on the platform of the soul, even while being in this body. We have stories of Srila Prabhupada, how even at his deathbed, he was translating Srimad Bhagavatam. His body had no muscle. There was nothing. It was just a bag. He was not eating. He was not drinking. But he was translating Srimad Bhagavatam. We saw recently His Holiness Kadam Kanand Swami Maharaj, how he fought against this cancer and how he was chanting even until his last days. So we can act, we can see the stories of these great devotees, and we can practice so that we are ready for the inevitable. So this is how I feel it is relevant, the information, the problem that Arjuna is saying, it is relevant for us also. So let's read the next section, which is from text 31 to 35. We need a volunteer, or I can read also.
I can read, Prabhu, if you want.
Yes, Prabhuji, go ahead.
I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsman in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. Without knowing that one's self-interest is in Vishnu or Krishna, conditioned souls are attracted by bodily relationships, hoping to be happy in such situations. In such a blind conception of life, they forget even the causes of material happiness. Arjuna appears to have even forgotten the moral codes for a Kshatriya. It is said that two kinds of men, namely the Kshatriya who dies directly in front of the battlefield under Krishna's personal orders, and the person in the renounced order of life who is absolutely devoted to spiritual culture, are eligible to enter into the sun globe, which is so powerful and dazzling. Arjuna is reluctant even to kill his enemies, let alone his relatives. He thinks that by killing his kinsmen there would be no happiness in his life, and therefore he is not willing to fight, just as a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook. He has now decided to go into the forest and live a secluded life in frustration.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. I would like to make some points here. So Prabhupada's purports are so illuminating. Otherwise it will so hard to understand the mood of Arjuna here and the mood of Krishna. It's very hard. But here Prabhupada is clarifying us that the goal of the real self-interest is Vishnu. But I think my bodily interest is my real interest. My family interest is my real interest. Now, here Prabhupada is saying that a Kshatriya who fights on the battlefield under Krishna's personal orders, he goes back to the sun globe. So this shows us that Dharma Yuddha, when we fight a Dharma Yuddha, when we fight for Krishna, for establishing righteousness in the world, that kind of Kshatriya goes back to this sun globe or the spiritual sun. Yeah, sun globe can be within the material realm, but still he is elevated to a higher destination. But it is not about people who are fighting just for the bodily conception. We see wars in Ukraine, Russia. When there are fights done just to get something out of it materially, that is not a dharma yuddha. Yeah, maybe for a defending party it could be, but definitely not for one who is looking for material pursuits. Okay, let's continue.
O Govinda,
Text.
of
Yeah.
what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhusudan, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them, even in exchange for the three worlds, let alone this earth. What pleasure will be derived from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Arjuna has addressed Lord Krishna as Govinda because Krishna is the object of all pleasures for cows and the senses. By using this significant word, Arjuna indicates that Krishna should understand what will satisfy Arjuna's senses. But Govinda is not meant for satisfying our senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our own senses are satisfied. Materially, everyone wants to satisfy his senses, and he wants God to be the order supplier for such satisfaction. The Lord will satisfy the senses of the living entities as much as they deserve, but not to the extent that they may covet. But when one takes the opposite way, namely when one tries to satisfy the senses of Govinda without desiring to satisfy one's own senses, then by the grace of Govinda, all desires of the living entity are satisfied. Arjuna's deep affection for community and family members is exhibited here partly due to his natural compassion for them. He is therefore not prepared to fight. As a natural devotee of the Lord, Arjuna did not like to retaliate against his miscreant cousins and brothers, but it was the Lord's plan that they should all be killed. The devotee of the Lord does not retaliate against the wrongdoer, but the Lord does not tolerate any mischief done to the devotee by the miscreants. The Lord can excuse a person on his own account, but he excuses no one who has done harm to his devotees. Therefore, the Lord was determined to kill the miscreants, although Arjuna wanted to excuse them.
Thank you, bro, for reading. So there is so much information in this purport. Arjuna is showing compassion. He has natural compassion even for the enemies, even though they have committed so many heinous activities against Arjuna and the Pandavas. So this is the compassion of a devotee. He wants to excuse. But the meaning of Govinda is not that he is meant to satisfy my senses. If we try to satisfy the senses of Govinda, however, then automatically our senses are satisfied. So in material world, everybody thinks I am the enjoyer, I am the center, and God is my order supplier. If I ask somebody, if I pray for something, I should get it. But this is not how it works. I need to satisfy the senses of Krishna. And then Krishna will satisfy the senses as much as we deserve. If one tries to give oneself completely to Krishna, then one's desires are satisfied beyond expectations. So there are two ways to enjoy this world. One is to enjoy the material comforts, and second is people try to renounce everything and try to merge into the Supreme. But both of these things don't work, because a living entity is supposed to serve Krishna, is supposed to serve the source. It is said in 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna is the soul of our soul. So how can we relate this in our day-to-day life? We can relate with the dieting regimen. Sometimes I am on a diet, I am restraining myself from food, but at some point, the tongue says, now you owe me 2 times, 3 times. So then I, take so much amount of food, and then I give up again. So this is the cycle of bhoga and tyaga. I'm enjoying and I'm renouncing. It's called yo-yo dieting. So this is the pleasure of material world. We enjoy, we renounce, we enjoy, we renounce. But there is no point where we feel satiation or we feel satisfaction at any point. However, when one tries to satisfy Krishna's senses, then one feels happy. And that kind of satisfaction, there is no satiation. We can do it unlimitedly. However, the material pleasures, there is a satiation. I can eat up to a certain extent. I can go and wander around, look different places according to my physical capacity. I can listen, I can see up to a certain extent. But the transcendental pleasure that we get by serving Krishna, it's unlimited. For example, when we are serving devotees, when we are dancing in the kirtans, when we are chanting Hare Krishna, devotees can go on and on and on. So this is the second point. No enjoyment, even if victorious. Arjuna is saying that I'm not happy even if I'm victorious, because who will I share this wealth with? I need somebody to share this. I need to show my opulence to somebody. But Krishna is saying that is not the purpose of human life. The purpose of human life is to satisfy Govinda. So much so that even Arjuna wants to excuse these wrongdoers, but because Krishna does not excuse somebody who has offended a devotee. So he wants to kill them. So in order to satisfy Krishna, Arjuna is supposed to kill them. So if we want to be happy in our life, we need to make sure that the more we please Krishna, the more one's senses are pleased. So if we want to control our tongue, we should give our tongue Krishna Prasadam. We should chant Hare Krishna. That is how we can control. Neither by austerities nor by extreme eating can we control the tongue, but by offering Krishna Prasadam and chanting Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada, he made a house under which the whole world can stay. There are devotees from all over the world. They can stay happily together under the umbrella of ISKCON. Why? Because they are satisfying Krishna's senses, Govinda's senses. However, Srila Prabhupada notes in United Nations, they are called United Nations, but the number of flags are always increasing. So what does that flag represent? If that means my interest is different from your interest. But in Krishna consciousness, we have one flag. We have the flag of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the Sankirtan movement. And everybody can live happily. under that. So that's a second point. I will stop here for 5 minutes to take any reflections or questions before we move ahead for the 2 more reasons that Arjuna gives for not fighting. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Very nice lecture. By listening to the points you are making from your pure self, it also increases my appetite. And specifically in the beginning, you showed that plate, that really increased the appetite. I hope there is some prasadam somewhere like that today. That was very nice. And the last one.
Tomorrow is Ekadashi, so yeah, make the best
Tomorrow is
use of it.
Ekadashi. Yeah. So we can aspire for that only day after tomorrow, not tomorrow. So the last point you made about that United Nations and the ISKCON thing also is very pertinent in the sense when we have too many centers, right? Not the center is not Krishna, right? There are too many centers, everyone, and within a nation also there are many centers, right? So it boils down to every individual person actually. And that's why there are conflicts in the family, there are conflicts in institutions, there are conflicts in nations, because, we all have our center. We want everyone to serve us. But no one will agree, right? There will always be a competitor out there. But when we try to serve Krishna, we get that pleasure. And so our heart becomes contented, which we don't get by serving ourselves. So that's a very nice point you made about United Nations and ISKCON being, just one flag we have there. Thank you, Prabhu. Yeah,
Thank you very much, Prabhu, for bringing that point.
Let me just quickly check if online, if there are any questions or comments. Okay. So I don't see any questions or comments, Prabhu. I don't know if in Zoom, if anyone has any question. Okay. No, I don't see anything in the chat.
Thank you for your reflection, Prabhu. So first point is about the first reason that we discussed, that was about compassion for the relatives and friends. So we can see that is due to my bodily conception. And second point is about no enjoyment, even if I'm victorious. If I win, I kill the other party. If I don't win, then anyway it's a defeat for me. So he's seeing defeat on both sides. So that is material life. Either I'm trying to be the enjoyer, I am the enjoyer, I want to satisfy my body, or I'm trying to satisfy my extended family or extended selfishness. So thank you, Prabhu. So we will continue to the two more reasons that we have. So let's go to text 36 through 38. Any volunteers for reading? Okay, Momita Mataji, go ahead.
Okay, Prabhu. Sin will overcome us if we slay such aggressors. Therefore, it is not proper for us to kill the sons of Dhritarashtra and our friends. What should we gain, O Krishna, husband of the goddess of fortune, and how could we be happy by killing our own kinsmen? According to the Vedic injunctions, there are 6 kinds of aggressors: a poison giver, one who sets fire to the house, one who attacks with deadly weapons, one who plunders riches, one who occupies another's land, and one who kidnaps a wife. Such aggressors are at once to be killed, and no sin is incurred by killing such aggressors. Such killing of aggressors is quite befitting any ordinary man, but Arjuna was not an ordinary person. He was saintly by character, and therefore he wanted to deal with them in saintliness. This kind of saintliness, however, is not for a Kshatriya. Although a responsible man in the administration of a state is required to be saintly, he should not be cowardly. For example, Lord Ram was so saintly that people even now are anxious to live in the kingdom of Lord Ram, Ram Rajya, but Lord Ram never showed any cowardice. Ravan was an aggressor against Ram because Ravan kidnapped Rama's wife, Sita, but Lord Ram gave him sufficient lessons, unparalleled in the history of the world. In Arjuna's case, however, one should consider the special type of aggressors, namely his own grandfather, own teacher, friends, sons, grandsons, etc. Arjuna considered that rather than kill his own kinsmen for political reasons, it would be better to forgive them on grounds of religion and saintly behavior. He did not therefore consider such killing profitable simply for the matter of temporary bodily happiness. After all, kingdoms and pleasures derived therefrom are not permanent. So why should he risk his life and eternal salvation by killing his own kinsmen? Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji, for reading. So we can see here Prabhupada is giving us an argument, back and forth from both sides. It's so amazing. Prabhupada has given us these purports from the commentary by Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, and as far as I know, Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur also. Prabhupada attributes it on the Bhagavad Gita. I think he offers it to Srila Baldev Vidyabhushan, as far as I remember. So we are getting so much depth from his purports. So there are 6 kinds of aggressors. All 6 have been done by the Kauravas against Pandavas. Everything. They tried to poison Bhima. They set fire in the lacquer house. They attacked with deadly weapons. They tried to plunder riches in the gambling match. They occupy their land. And they could try to kidnap or disrobe Draupadi. Still, Arjuna is so saintly that he wants to excuse them. Prabhupada is saying this is not for a Kshatriya. He's giving the example of Lord Ram. However, there is a special type of aggressors here, namely his own grandfather. We see that even Bhishma supported the disrobing of Draupadi. He did not utter a word when that was happening in the assembly. His teacher, Dronacharya, he did not say anything. Kripacharya. So this is a very specific case. So Arjuna wants to forgive them because anyways, he doesn't want to do this for temporary bodily happiness. Let's continue. Okay, we will read up to 38 before going ahead. Yeah. Any volunteers for reading?
Okay, Prabhu.
Okay, sure.
Arjuna's addressing of Krishna as Madhava, or the husband of the goddess of fortune, is also significant in this connection. He wanted to point out to Krishna that as the husband of the goddess of fortune, he should not induce Arjuna to take up a matter which would ultimately bring about misfortune. Krishna, however, never brings misfortune to anyone, to say nothing of his devotees. O Janardhan, although these men, their hearts overtaken by greed, see no fault in killing one's family or quarreling with friends, why should we, who can see the crime in destroying a family, engage in these acts of sin? Arjuna, however, could see the evil consequences and could not accept the challenge. Obligation is actually binding when the effect is good, but when the effect is otherwise, then no one can be bound. Considering all these pros and cons, Arjuna decided not to fight.
Thank you for reading, Prabhu. Thank you, devotees, for joining. So we are discussing the different reasons that Arjuna had for lamentation, for not fighting. So this is the third reason that we are discussing, which is the fear of sinful reactions. Although he sees that there are aggressors, his own teacher Bhishma, his own teacher Drona, and his grandfather Bhishma, they are on the side of the enemy. But because they are superiors, he wants to excuse them. He wants to not fight or kill. So he is fearful of the sinful reactions because of killing a superior. So Krishna answers this later. I read this from the commentaries that the 6 types of aggressors should be killed. It is given in the Arth Shastra. However, superior than Arth Shastra is Dharma Shastra. So Dharma Shastra says that one should not kill one's relatives in any scenario, especially superiors. Even if they are harsh, they should not be even given a verbal fight, what to speak of killing them. But higher than Dharma Shastra is Gyan Shastra, which Krishna is showing to Arjuna in 2nd chapter. That is the knowledge of the soul, that we are not this body, we are soul, we are part and parcel of Krishna, and we want to act as per the instructions of Krishna. Because Krishna wanted this fight to happen, because Krishna wanted that the evil side, Duryodhan, should be vanished and Yudhishthir should rule the world, Arjun should follow his orders. Arjun should follow the instructions. How can we relate this in our day-to-day life? We might have fears of different sorts. Here, Arjuna has a fear of sinful reactions from killing his own relatives. We might have fear of our own family in practicing Krishna consciousness. We might have fear of the society. What will people say if I start going to the temple? When I started Krishna consciousness, I was really afraid, what will people say? What will my parents say? What will my friends say? I'm just going into something which is like a cult, or, it's like brainwashing. But at the same time, I could not enjoy my company with my friends like I used to do earlier. I developed taste for prasadam. I developed taste for kirtans. I like the philosophy. I like the purity of the devotees. So there are fears in our life which will stop us from taking the next step in Krishna consciousness. But on the instruction of Krishna, Sarva dharman paritejya mam ekam sharanam vraja aham tvam sarupapebhyo mokshishyami mashucha. Krishna says, do not fear, do not worry, give up all other kinds of religions, all other kind of dharmas, dharma towards the family, dharma towards the society. Of course, we don't want to disrespect anybody. We want to set a great example. We want to be even more loving to our parents and our family and society, but on the platform of the soul, not on the platform of the body. So we should learn from this example how to take shelter of Krishna rather than my own fears. So many devotees who join Brahmachari ashram, they are told that they should fulfill their obligations to the family before joining the Brahmachari ashram. So we should do it in a nice way, in an exemplary way, and set an example for others. So this is true for Brahmachari ashram as well as Grihastha ashram. I see our ISV community is a beautiful community. There are so many Grihasthas who are exemplary. They are doing their job perfectly. They are taking care of the family so nicely, and they are practicing Krishna consciousness. So it is possible to follow the footsteps of Arjun, as he will do later after hearing Bhagavad Gita, and take the next step towards Krishna. Okay, let's go to the next part, which is the last reason. From text 39, I will need a volunteer who would like to read.
Anyone like to read? Okay, Prabhu, I will go ahead and read. 39 we read, right?
Yes, we are going to read from 39.
39, okay. With the destruction of the dynasty, the eternal family tradition is vanquished, and thus the rest of the family becomes involved in irreligion. In the system of the Varnashrama institutions, there are many principles of religious traditions to help members of the family grow properly and attain spiritual values. The elder members are responsible for such purifying processes in the family, beginning from birth to death. But on the death of the elder member, such family traditions of purification may stop, and the remaining younger family members may develop irreligious habits and thereby lose their chance for spiritual salvation. Therefore, for no purpose should the elder members of the family be slain. When irreligion is prominent in the family of Krishna, the women of the family become polluted, and from the degradation of womanhood or descendant of Vrishni comes unwanted progeny. Good population in human society is the basic principle for peace, prosperity, and spiritual progress in life. The Varnashrama religion's principles were so designed that the good population would prevail in society for the general spiritual progress of state and community. Such population depends on the chastity and faithfulness of its womanhood. As children are very prone to be misled, women are similarly very prone to degradation. Therefore, both children and women require protection by the elder members of the family.
Hare Krishna. I would like to make some points here. Thank you for reading. So this is the final, or this is the fourth reason why Arjuna did not want to fight. So he's mentioning the destruction of the dynasty. When you kill the dynasty, there is a loss of family tradition. There is no elders who are going to give the samskars for the next generation. There are varnashram system. So one has to pass on the tradition to the next generation. Otherwise, these ancestors will fall down because there will be no one to offer them food and water, as it is given in text 41. The ancestors of such corrupt families fall down because the performances for offering them food and water are entirely stopped. So if we kill everybody on the other side, Kauravas, then who will pass on this tradition? So Prabhupada answers this in the purport that anyone who has taken shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, the giver of liberation, giving up all kinds of obligation, and has taken to the path in all seriousness, owes neither duties nor obligations to the demigods, sages, general living entities, family members, humankind, or forefathers. Such obligations are automatically fulfilled by performance of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Of course, we know Duryodhan was not a righteous king. Even if he would stay, he would not propagate the Varnashram Dharma. He was always envious of the Pandavas. He was a mean king. He did not want to share, or he didn't want to give even 5 villages to the Pandavas. So how would such a person be a good ruler? So here there is no point of saving them on the ground of Varnashram Dharma. But even if so, because Krishna has asked, one should fight. So how can we relate this to our present society? Prabhupada says in the purports that when there are irresponsible leaders, they bring about chaos in the society. And any person who follows such leaders are sure to be led into chaos. So in our individual capacity, we can try to choose a responsible leader. We can see what is the background of such a person. Is he a devotee? Or at least we can pray to Krishna to have a good government. If not, most of the times we won't get good choices, but we can be more careful in making our decisions, because if the leaders are irresponsible, then there will be chaos in the society. Prabhupada mentions in Prabhupada doesn't mention, but it's mentioned in Prabhupada Lila Amrita that many of the uh, Indian ministers who took post after the freedom, they were not Krishna conscious. They were more technology conscious. So they built technical institutions for India rather than developing spiritual institutions, and rather than developing simple living and high thinking. Because of that, because of the lack of the culture of Krishna consciousness, we still remain dependent on the Western world, because we imitated their artificial necessities and we imitated their education, and we lost our Gurukula education, which was meant to make us self-dependent. So this is how we can use it and apply it in our today's times. And I think that's all I have for the 4 reasons. The 5th reason, which is mentioned in 2nd chapter, is indecision. Because he is indecisive, Krishna is asking Arjuna that how can you do this? How can you not fight? You are a warrior. If you flee, if you go out of the war, everybody will call you a coward. This is not, you are behaving like an anarya. An Aryan is one who knows the spiritual values of life, who knows that I am spirit and not body. So if you are fleeing from your duty, then you are acting as anarya. So now Arjuna is confused. He's indecisive whether he should fight or not fight. So he was indecisive because he had the good qualities of soft-heartedness. He was able to control his senses. He wanted to go for begging rather than killing his own teacher or his grandfather. So that is the quality of Shama and Dama. He was able to control his mind. He was able to control his senses. That is why he was fit to be given the education or the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So that is why Arjuna could take shelter of Krishna, and he surrendered to Krishna. Please, please instruct me. Now I don't want to be a friend. I want to be a student. You are my teacher. You guide me. So this is how we can utilize the mood of Arjuna to also surrender to Krishna. Krishna, please instruct me. I don't know how to be free from this conception of body, how to be free from the conception of enjoying in extended sense gratification from on the family level, on the society, on the level of nation. I don't have the capacity to understand how to be free from sinful reactions. What is right? What is wrong? I don't know how to make a choice of a good leader. I don't know how to make a role model in my own life. So please instruct me. So this is how we can utilize this in our own life. So I will stop here, and we can open for any questions or comments, reflections. Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
So Arjuna got disillusioned, and he kind of forgot the Kshatriya dharma, and he wanted to become a beggar instead. But Krishna chastised him and said that it's better to do your duty in a bad way rather than trying to do someone else's, role. And so in the material world, and we all often have a conflict between Krishna consciousness and our material kind of duties or compliance requirements that we have in society. Sometimes it takes repetitive effort. Like, okay, we try once and we fail, and in so many places in life, and then we have to again put effort and keep trying. And it's very easy to give up because we have the shelter of doing some devotional service and not focusing on material aspects. So how to deal with that kind of dilemma or disillusionment, like persistence?
Hare Krishna Mataji, could you give me, and thank you for the nice question, could you give a specific example which we can take for this question?
Okay, let's say we're trying to get through different kinds of interviews or tests, and we fail, but it's not like, it's not a necessity. It's just a material accomplishment for us, and we can as well do without it. And being in Krishna consciousness, it often happens that uh, we are we have some taste for devotional service, and we are kind of get content with wherever we are, but maybe in the long run it's not in our best interest in the material sense. So how do we deal with that? Because it takes more effort in that sense, that we have to kind of stay away from, let's say, hearing some Krishna katha or going to the temple and focus on some material, pursue it, not by very much our choice.
Thank you, Mataji, for such a nice question. It is like gopis in Vrindavan, when Krishna did not return to Vrindavan,
Yes.
he sent a letter to them that I am super soul, I am in everybody's heart, so I have never gone, I'm always there. And then that time gopis became really angry, because angry in the sense that, not in the sense, because they have realized personal form of Krishna. So uh, they want to see Krishna, they want to be with Krishna all the time, but they have to meditate in order to forget Krishna. So we meditate so that we can remember Krishna, but they would meditate so that they can forget Krishna. So I think that is your situation. You are so much attracted to Krishna, but you want to, how can we go away? But I understand that we have to grow materially. What we can do, we can chalk out a plan. If it's somebody, who is close to us, who in devotee circle, and we can share our plan. Devotees would like to serve Krishna 24 hours a day and hear about him 24 hours a day. It's not a disqualification. But yes, we need to take care of our material duties perfectly, as Rupa Goswami did. When Rupa Goswami left his duties, he divided his wealth very properly among the Brahmanas. He gave 50% to the Brahmanas or devotees, 25% for his own emergency purpose, 25% for his brother, Sanatan Goswami, so that he could be relieved. So that's how Sanatan Goswami got out of the jail later on. So we should be very meticulous in our material side. I would recommend to talk to somebody who has done this perfectly in his life, so that we can give ourselves 100% to Krishna consciousness, so that we don't have to worry about these needs on the back of our head. So this is very personal thing. It might vary from every one devotee to another. We don't have to go for the material pursuits, because that's not Krishna consciousness. But if they help us in becoming Krishna conscious, in sharing Krishna consciousness, then one may do it. There are devotees who are billionaires, who are millionaires, like His Grace Ambarish Maharaj Prabhu. So he's utilizing that. So whatever our service needs, we should do that. Hare Krishna Mataji. I hope it helps.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna. So
Hare
just
Krishna.
check if there is any questions? Online questions? I don't find any online questions. I was just, when you're answering, I was just reminded of, I think it was, one of the note we see Murali Prabhu sends, right, in our one of the WhatsApp channel, where the Prabhupada speaks, right, small snippets. I think in one of the snippet Prabhupada says, I don't know to whom, I don't remember, but he says that one should deal in this material world just like gopis did, just like a paramount, right? She is always worried that someone will find that she is not devoted to her husband but to someone else, and so therefore she does her material duties extra carefully. Of course, this is basically, I'm talking about gopis, right? They are in a very high state mental, their consciousness is very high. They can perform material duty, and also they can do their spiritual consciousness is focused on Krishna, right? They can do both. But for people like us, I kind of agree with Momita Mataji there, that we sometimes we have this Falgu Vairagya that comes in our heart, right? I will leave everything. What is this? I'm enjoying Krishna's service so much. I will leave everything. I will go away. What is this? Why did I have to worry about the nonsense about family and driving license and car and gas price going up? Why I have to worry about all these things, right? I will go to Vrindavan. I will just have one small piece of cloth, and I will just read there and chant. And there are a lot of devotees who serve prasadam, so I will live there peacefully. But it is actually difficult, because but I think you rightly answered, Prabhu, there, that we have to, I think, planning for our consciousness, I think planning is the key. We should plan and dedicate some time for each of the things. I think that is basically the sadhana stage, I think, what is called, right?
Thank you so much for sharing that snippet, Prabhu. It's very important. That's what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Rupa Goswami and Sanatan Goswami when they wrote the first letter to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that you don't behave like a madman, just do your duty.
Yeah.
But yeah, he gave this example. Very beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we have only 1 minute. Maybe we can just chant Kirtan. I want to share this link. This is about 7 purposes of ISKCON. Maybe everybody can read at their own time. So because it was Prabhupada incorporated ISKCON, yes, July 11th, 1966. So it was yesterday. So we can read the purposes that Prabhupada instituted. This is movement for, So we'll just chant Hare Krishna real quickly. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Dear devotees, thank you so much for your patience listening and giving me the opportunity. Thank you, Shri Ashimadeva Prabhu, for your support.
Thank you for your service, Prabhu.
Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyev cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah.
Kautukarnava
Krishna
Prabhu
Vrinda
ki
ki
jai.
jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol.
Okay, dear devotees, we'll close the session now. Thank you. Hari Bol.